This podcast is brought to you by the Heldridge Hotel, New Brunswick's only 4-star hotel and a preferred hotel of Rutgers football fans. The Heldridge helps you make the most of your game day weekend, providing premium accommodations in the cultural heart of downtown New Brunswick. Restaurants, bars, theaters, parks, museums, and more are only steps away. Whether you're traveling alone or with a large group, book your stay at the Heldridge and make the most of your game day weekend. Visit theheldridge.com today.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel. Welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rutgers Rant. We are here after the Maryland victory. We got ourselves a meaningful November. The hunt for a relevant November. We did it. We're here. We'll talk about the Maryland game. We'll talk about the Penn State game. And we might even talk about the game in between the two if we feeling frisbee, doing a little basketball recaps. But Brian, you're looking down. Are you all right? You okay?
I'm doing great.
I'm just a little worried about you. Are you? Let's talk. Me and you. No one's here. Are you all right?
I was just celebrating in the locker room with my dog. Had a big morning this morning, so no, I'm feeling great. I appreciate you asking. I don't appreciate you stealing my joke because I was going to make the same exact joke, and now I'm left with nothing.
I got it. I didn't put it in the script purposely because I knew you were probably going to go there. If you're not paying attention, it was I'm at the point now where I've seen everything possible happen in a press conference. So like when something interesting happens, it's like a shot of adrenaline. And Brian gets the microphone at the end of the Maryland game, and like Greg's talking about things, and he does seem a little sluggish. I was a little surprised. I just chalked it up to being tired. It was whatever, long game. And Brian asks, like, "Are you down? Are you okay?" Like you seem like it's just like he was being acted as a psychologist, and like everyone in the room's like, "Oh, what's he going to say to that?" And he said he wasn't. He was caught off guard. You caught him off guard. It's very hard to do.
It's about time I asked something interesting at a press conference. It struck me as like, and you could tell that he's been wearing down. Like the recent press conferences, and we've had fans ask us this: like, does he seem a little off? And I think it's just the accumulation of him taking on so many more responsibilities after the Oregon game and taking over the defense. But I guess it just struck me more after a win, a pretty big win at that, a win they essentially had to save their season, quote unquote. And I was just curious because, and I know you guys clown me. I was surprised that the fans and the message boards didn't really clown me as much as you guys did. But I was just thinking that there's a 99% chance that he gives us what he did, which is say, I am happy. I celebrated. He admitted he was a little exhausted. I thought maybe there's a 1% chance he's like, I just can't get over the fact that on the second play of the game, after I spent an entire week telling these guys to watch who was holding the ball, they gave up a 73-yard touchdown, or anything, or maybe, you never know. Like literally, this guy is a human being. He could have something in his personal life that's affecting him. And I mean, thankfully it doesn't seem like there is, but you never know until you ask. So I asked.
That was good. Absolutely. Better than asking like, what's the tight end rotation? 100%. And the best part about that question is like, I'm like, I had the microphone next and I'm sitting there like, how am I going to ask him about Penn State when they don't play Penn State next week and they don't play Penn State the week after that? And I'm sitting there like, only thing anybody cares about now around this program is going to be that game. And I'm like, how am I going to get a question? And then because you kind of loosened him up, like I don't think he could have been a prick to me at that point. He had to, like, if he looked down, if he now comes back at me after answering you, comes back to me and says, "Why are you asking about Penn State?" It would have been a little weird. So he had to give me an answer to that question. So you set me up. Appreciate it. Thanks, pal. We're team here. That's what we do.
That's right. A little Jam synergy. We always talk about alignment in the Rutgers athletics department. How about alignment on the Rutgers beat, baby? That's what we're talking about. He did talk about because you're right. This is a very interesting point where they get this huge win. Now they have a bye week to rest up. Then
Yeah.
they go to all places, Ohio State, which everyone, including us, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I've been saying for weeks they're never going to win this game. I still believe that. They don't think that at the Hale Center. They think they're going to have a chance at this game because they have to. They have to.
Right.
They can't go into that game with any doubt, right? And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think they have to. And look, if Greg wants to point to something to get some hope in the building, 2 years ago, after a bye week, they hosted number 1 Ohio State, and they were in a dogfight. You know, they were in the fourth quarter, and it was a game still, right? So
Yeah.
very different teams, obviously. You could point to that. Now, I will say one thing to transition to this Maryland game that's a little similar between that game and this game is that Rutgers has Antoine Raymond, who looked awfully similar to one Kyle Monungai on Saturday.
Look at you go. Yes, that's a good point. Yep, interesting. So you're coming around to this. Well, you're saying that they have a chance.
No, I'm not. They don't have a chance. They that's just the reality, right? Ohio, and it's not because, I mean, partially it's what we think of Rutgers, but mostly it's what we think of Ohio State, who is a juggernaut, right? There are a handful of teams in college football that would give this Ohio State team a game.
Right.
I do think that there will be a more sympathetic scoreline, given the fact that Ohio State is kind of slow playing this regular season, working their way up to the game against Michigan. And I don't think there's any extreme animosity between Ryan Day and Greg Schiano, despite our header on Twitter for 2 years being anyway, why are we talking about Ohio State when that's 2 weeks away?
Good. I'm interested in this because I hadn't really thought about this. So let's just explore this for a minute because I'm looking at now Ohio State's 9-0. You know, they have not played anybody really, unless you count number 17 Illinois. Okay, all right, at Illinois, that's a game. That's playing somebody. But since playing number 1 Texas, they have not played a formidable foe. And they're beating Purdue 34-10, Penn State 38-14, Wisconsin 34-0, Illinois 34. They have not had a close game since the opener by touchdown or less. So yeah, I don't know. They play UCLA, then they host Rutgers before playing Michigan. Trap game potential. You're talking me into it. Not really.
There was an interesting question. I don't want to skip ahead to the questions here, but I'll bring this one up because we're on Ohio State. That if you give Greg Schiano truth serum, would he forfeit the game and just accept on paper a 34-17 game if he didn't have to go to Columbus, risk injury, and play through that? What do you think?
No, I don't think. Absolutely not. Like that's him. Like there's no like he's not faking this. Like we think we can win every game. Like that's not. He would pass the lie detector there if you hooked him up to that. And say, okay, press conference before Ohio State. We're going to get you up to the lie detector test. We're going to put the whole thing set up so you have to answer. What's your name? Great. Is your name Greg Schiano? Yes. Can you beat Penn State? Yes. And the lines would be exactly the same. There's no question. Yeah, I don't think he would not pass up the opportunity to play them. At least, I mean, I'd love to try. Maybe we can propose that. Have a little lie detector before the press conference. Be fun.
That would be great for other. I think we could save that gimmick for more pressing matters. But again, to the point of like, I think if you don't play the game, you have a 0% chance of winning. If you do play the game, in theory, it starts 0-0. There are 11 players on each side. The grass is the same length for every team. In theory, there is a chance you win. And I think if you enter that stadium with anything less than a full belief that you can win that game, you will not only have no chance of winning the game, you have a high chance of getting massacred by these enormous NFL guys playing 100 miles an hour. Now,
right now, 3.2% according to ESPN analytics. Chance.
ESPN is very favorable. Does a Rutgers alum run ESPN? That seems like a very high number.
That's about right. 3.2.
Okay, so to wrap up the Ohio State thing, this week, this is another question. I know we're bouncing between questions and talking, but whatever. This week, Greg will say that Ohio State is the most important game of the year. I think they meant next week. So let's treat it as such with a simple question. And don't laugh. All right, play, don't laugh. What would need to happen for Rutgers to win in Columbus?
Okay. Antoine Raymond would have to be an incredible player, right? He'd have to dominate. They'd have to have the ball for 40 minutes. The defense would have to force a couple of turnovers and not have the big plays. Ohio State's going to score in that game. Like they just can't have what happened against Maryland. We're on the second play of the game. Talked about it ad nauseum. It's just a simple running play. Everybody, every linebacker, every safety on the Rutgers defense does the wrong thing. And it's a quarterback who doesn't have like a big stat line for rushing. A fresh Drew Osborne, he's just gone for 70 yards. They can't have that. And that's what happened in every game this year. I mean, it happened against Oregon. And the better the skill players are, the more chance there are of that happening. So that, I mean, to me, that's the number one thing. Number two, the offense has to control the ball, make sure they have it the entire game. Just get, it's good. Every fourth down, they're going to have to convert. I mean, yeah, everything that has to go right completely, but that's the first one. Is the defense has got to be a defense we have not seen.
So you took this question at face value and you didn't laugh. So I'll go on the other side. I'll give two joke answers and one somewhat of a joke answer. Mm-hmm. One, the meteor crashes into Ohio Stadium the night before and they can't host the game, so they automatically have to forfeit the game. That's one. Okay. Two, the equipment managers flip the jerseys. They mistake the scarlet and the white, and for some reason, Rutgers players are wearing Ohio State, and the Ohio State players are wearing Rutgers, and then the CBS crew or whoever's calling the game can't tell the difference, and neither can the Big Ten, and there's a big confusion. Three, every Rutgers player has literally the greatest game of their career. I mean, I'm talking the 99.9% 99th percentile of how well they can play. And Ohio State's team, half of them get injured, and half of them play literally the worst game they could possibly muster football. I mean, it would have to be that kind of afternoon where it essentially have to be Freaky Friday.
But it happens. I mean, crazy stuff happens in college football sometimes. I don't think the problem is, like, when it happens, there's usually a team that's flawed in some way. They're highly ranked, but like Alabama a couple of years ago wasn't Alabama when they lost to Vanderbilt. Like there's games like that where you're like, all right, you could see it afterward that wasn't the team that everyone expected it to be. I don't see it with this Ohio State team. I think it's just the tank. It's just going to steamroll it and go all the way to the national championship. Could be proven wrong here, but certainly it looks the part, right? That's the problem I have with this scenario. Like, it's hard to see if you're going to pick a team to go like the LSU a few years ago and just, roll to the championship. I just think that this team is capable of that.
Just again, this is more Ohio State than anything. I'm looking at their seasons right now. Mm-hmm. They have not had a season with more than 2 losses since 2011. They've gone 13 years of seasons with at least 10 wins outside of the COVID year when they only had 7, obviously. They're just the standard bearer of consistency and excellence in the sport. And again, that's why if you even come close to, if you pull off that upset, it would be one of the greatest wins in college football history, or upsets. Yes. And they're charging their way to a second straight national championship.
Right. It would be something, though. I mean, talk about narrative changing stuff, man. Go into the shoe this year of all years and win that game. All right. You know what they would say? You made a point here. If they switched uniforms and they put in, suddenly the Ohio State players are wearing the Rutgers uniforms, you know what they would say? They would say, "This is not the proper scarlet. It's much too much orange in this color. I prefer the darker, richer scarlet." That'd be great. Throwing out a little joke for content on NJ.com last week.
Well, this is the first time we talk about it, right? Since this is the first time we have a podcast since it came out. So tell us about your trip to the Pantone factory.
I love it. This is great. Yeah, we're just completely off script. No one wants to talk about the Maryland game anyway. So this is and if you hadn't seen it, we did sort of like a quirky, silly, but also very kind of real, because people take this stuff very seriously about the color change. And I didn't notice it right away. I don't know if you did. Because I don't really think, I don't know. I'm just so used to, I'm not looking at the uniforms typically. I'm not, when I'm at a game, but we got a lot of emails right away. And some people like, "Hey, did you notice this? That the Rutgers is changed the uniform colors." And I replied to one of them, like, "What are you talking? Like, really?" And they sent a picture of the side by side. I'm like, holy crap. That's absolutely a different color. And then I was at the game against Norfolk State, and I was in the crowd, and you could see it when you're in the crowd. It's very noticeable. Like, you just see one guy sitting next to an Adidas jersey, sitting next to a Nike jersey, and they're not the same color. So it's fascinating. And we just kind of figured out like how to cover that. And I think you and I were texting about it. Like, we should get the Pantone people involved. And I had no idea that Pantone is in Carlstadt, New Jersey, which is 15 minutes from my house. And it's fun. It's great. Yeah. The woman in charge of that, this is what they do. They look at colors, tell you what's the better color for your product. Like, if they did the Minions, which is my favorite. They came up with a yellow, the official Minion yellow, so that all of the products you buy a minion stuffed animal, it looks like every other. Make sure everything's consistent, and that's the big thing. The word she used was like consistency. So I went to the Pantone factory, the Pantone Institute, and it's in this drab building in Carlsbad, New Jersey, like at the end of this industrial park. And you walk in, and there's like a paneled wall of like very Perry, this very purple color on the wall. It's like the color 2022 Pantone color of the year. And then there's like a little thing on the other side of the wall that's like telling you that like this is white, and it's white with the Pantone numbers for the white, which I thought was pretty. They have a sense of humor clearly. And she took the jerseys upstairs. They looked at them for a week, came back with the results, and the results were that Rutgers was wearing the wrong color based on its own official color. The Adidas color was 187C. Rutgers color 186C was the color, the official color for Rutgers, Pantone number 186C. But in their official opinion, 187C is more of a true Scarlet than the uniform color you're wearing now. So Rutgers is wearing the right color, but based on their analysis, that's the former color was more Scarlet. So no matter which way you go on this, you can be right, which is, I think, what they were going to tell us.
Sure. The red is in the eye of the beholder. Right. The Scarlet is in the eye of the beholder. I just like two things about the story. One, that we got Pat to turn into a fashion model. We're finding a bunch of different things for Pat Laney to do these days. And now he's not on the rant, and becoming a Rutgers fashion model was not on my bingo card.
Yes, we brought him in with Chris Birch, one of our great future writers, and we told them, we're just going to take a photo. Your face will not be in this. That's what Andy Mills, our photographer, said. And that's why I go in the system and their faces are in it. And I text Andy Mills and I'm like, should I crop out the faces? He goes, nah, just use the faces. I'm like, I love it. Absolutely. Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. And on a serious note, like I think it speaks to fandom, right? There are people that have been coming to these games for 50 years. They've seen Rutgers play in home Scarlet uniforms for a long time. And aside from that beautiful kicker you had with a colorblind fan, and I know Dave White, our listener, is also a colorblind person, but if you take away those people and look at, fans that have been here for a long time, they notice things like this, right? Like I think it's just one of these small things you don't think about fandom that really speaks to like what this stuff means to people. And I thought it was, I was surprised to hear how many people were emailing you after the first game about the color change, but after reading the story, I kind of get why it matters to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't realize the history, like Rutgers was Scarlet before the first football game. It happened in the same year, which I thought was very interesting. Like early in 1869, they decided, and the history of why they picked Scarlet, and they were going to be orange at first, but they couldn't find a suitable orange flag. And then they had a campus vote, and then because, in typical Rutgers fashion, a mere 31 years later, they officially codified Scarlet in 1900 and said, this is our color and no one shall take it away from us. Like it was like one of these very formative deals. And then they weren't the Scarlet Knights until the 50s, which I didn't know either. Like they were the Chanticleers for a long time, became the Scarlet Knights, another fan vote. Put the color was important enough for Rutgers identity to put it in the name of their team. Like this is how important Scarlet is. So it's not a trivial thing. And I love that stuff about college football. Without that, because right now college football is basically the NFL with good bands, right? I mean, this is what we've become. Without this tradition, it is not. It's just a knockoff, a cheap knockoff of the NFL. They've got to keep that part of it and find a way to make sure that still matters, right? And I think this is just one little example of it.
Sure. And I guess we'll go into that segue to talk about the Maryland game and an interesting topic for the bye week. We'll start off with the Maryland game. We'll be really quick because we had the 15-minute post-game discussion, and the only thing that changed from that to now was the Greg Schiano mood test that we had on him. But I just thought this was a game where, big picture, Rutgers showed that they're at a point that, yes, they have not won the games against the better teams yet, and that's clearly a fair frustration over the last 2 years where Rutgers has not taken the quote-unquote next step. They have not lost to they lost to some worse teams last year. Wisconsin was a worse team, et cetera. But the point being, this year they have not lost to a team that was worse than them, and they put themselves in the position to go to the postseason because of that, because Maryland is worse than them. They're younger than them, and Rutgers beat them because they had better players, and their better players stepped up. Antoine Raymond, obviously, record performance. KJ Duff, silent game, but big plays when they came. Mm-hmm. Ian Strong, highly efficient. 5 catches, 3 touchdowns, and the 2 other catches set up the first touchdown. So effectively, he had a part in every one of Ethan's passing touchdowns. And Ethan Kaliakmanis, on a game where he throws his least amount of pass attempts in a single game as a Scarlet Knight, he ties for his record for most touchdown passes. Yeah. He only has 7 incompletions. 2 of them are interceptions that we're not going to pin on him. So it's hard to ask for more from your quarterback. He is now 300 yards away from becoming the third Rutgers quarterback with 3,000 passing yards in a single season. I think Rutgers fans will appreciate, much like Gary Nova, will appreciate Ethan Kaliakmanis more and more as the years goes on, because I think he's really, really cemented himself as one of the best quarterbacks this program's ever had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that was the takeaway from that game was you had a more experienced quarterback than Maryland did, and you had the better skill position players. And that has not been the case against Maryland. I mean, certainly when Tua was down there, little Tua, why am I forgetting his name? Little Tua.
Tolia.
Thank you. And now they do. Yeah. And I can't, you had a great stat about Antoine Raymond. And as you're watching the game, you knew it was special what he was doing because some of those cuts were just NFL quality cuts. And just the amount of yards after, first contact he had, missed tackles forced. He's now 4th in the nation at 62. Felt like he had 62 in that game alone. Surpassed his previous single game high of 13 and Kyle Monungai's previous high of 15. I mean, that was against Temple, a bad team. So you're seeing, like, you just saw what he was capable of doing. And this is a game where Rutgers had the better skill players and won as a result of it. Like, they won in the trenches. They won the individual battles at when the ball was thrown up, up for grabs. Yeah. And I think that was what we were waiting to happen. We were waiting for this offense to have a game like that. And for the defense, give them some credit, to do what it had to do. Just get a couple stops, like get them off the field once or twice. Like no one expecting a shutout at this point, right? It's just get a 3 and out, get a 4th down stop, get a turnover, do a couple of things. And that's exactly what happened.
Yes. So let's start off with the ugly part of the defense, because I have 2 screenshots here. So this is the second play of the game. Every 10 players are flowing right because they think the running back kept the ball. And then here on the left side, you have Malik Washington, the quarterback, going one-on-one with a blocker against Jet Elad. I'm sure everyone who watched the game knows how it happened. If you're watching this for the first time, this is what happened. He is 20 yards down the field past every other player after he beat Jet Elad and scored a touchdown, right? So you watch that and you think, all right, well, this is going to be another long day for the Rutgers defense. And it was on the ground. I mean, I have the numbers in my story. It is shocking how bad Maryland was coming to this game as a rushing offense and how good they played against the Rutgers defense. And it wasn't just that first play. They had
305 yards to an offense entering a game, average 93, 129th nationally. Yeah,
they had almost as many rushing yards against Rutgers as they did in 5 games this season. It's insane. But here's we have killed the Rutgers offense this season for gaining a bunch of yards and not scoring. Rutgers defense did that to Maryland this game because, and this stat blew my mind. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this bad. Rutgers held Maryland to 3 points in the second half, right? Rutgers won the third quarter 7-0 or 7-3. I think it was 7-0. That is the first time in 9 FBS games that they won the third quarter. Wow. The first time. They have lost the third quarter in every single game. Actually, that's not true. They lost the third quarter 7 times, and they tied 7-7 with Miami of Ohio. The point being, they're just getting massacred after halftime. And this time they finally took control, got the ball in the first possession, scored a touchdown, create some separation, and then clamped down defensively and forced a young team in Maryland to have to climb back. And Malik Washington missed some throws. Mm-hmm. Maryland committed penalties, and Rutgers didn't. Ethan Kaliakmanis completed his throws. Rutgers committed a single penalty, which was an intentional delay of game on a punt. And ultimately, the more mature, more disciplined team won. And I think that's kind of the way Greg Schiano wants to win in a nutshell. So I thought that was a quintessential Rutgers win in that way.
Right. And clearly, like, I think he said, I forget the exact quote, but that's real defense. He said after the game, he's still not satisfied with the defense. You could tell, like, he just and I think you're right. Like, he's just seeing things that shouldn't be happening. But at least we saw, like, Eric O'Neill, you mentioned this in your analysis this morning, that was his best game. Like 10 tackles, 2 for loss, 3 quarterback pressures. There's pressure on the quarterback, which, I mean, three for one player to have 3 pressures. They had some games where they didn't have 3 pressures, right? Like, it felt like they were nowhere near the quarterback. They were disruptive in some ways. I don't know how much of that is Maryland. I really don't. I think a lot of it's Maryland. I think it's fair to say. It's going to be a little harder against better offensive lines, but I mean, look, at least it happened, right? At least there's some confidence and some, feeling going into this bye that you're at least you're improving. The bye week, I think, comes at a good time because of all the injuries and things they're dealing with. Maybe they get a couple guys back. Maybe they have time to make some more changes and adjustments. I don't know. If you're looking at it positively, at least the defense did improve that game. That's a big deal.
I don't think it's a coincidence that their two best performances in Big Ten play are against Purdue and Maryland. Right. We should definitely keep those things in mind. Now, Eric O'Neal, yes, his best game as a Scarlet Knight, no doubt, even though he did not get a sack, but he had a lot of tackles. He was really involved. And I think this play kind of stuck out to me when I was watching it back. So he is on, he's number 99. Malik Washington is running, gets stopped, and O'Neal's chasing him across the field to make a tackle like that.
You're listening to it. Yeah, he goes from one hash mark, the far hash mark, all the way to the sideline and makes a tackle from behind. Yeah, against the running back. So,
and that was against the quarterback.
Was it the quarterback
who had, yes,
yeah.
who had
show that again. I want to see it one more time if you can.
Sure. So he fakes the handoff. Oh, no, you're right. It is running back. My bad.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
The point being, when Maryland was gashing them on the ground, this is a play that, yes, Maryland gets a 2-yard gain, but that could have turned into a much bigger gain if he doesn't make that play. And what stuck out to me is the effort, right? Like Greg Schiano had an astute point that I know it is what it is, right? But he's saying that a lot of teams in America essentially have quit this year and thrown in the towel, and this team could have. And that's something that I've given Greg credit for last year when they went to Michigan State and beat the brains off of them, and in a game like this where they could have quit after losing to Illinois, after Oregon, and they didn't. And I think there's some credit for that.
Right. No, absolutely. Yep. The result of this, which is interesting, we're back on the bowl boards. I didn't see that coming. I'm a little surprised by that. ESPN, CBS, Athlon, and On3 all have Rutgers in the Game Above Sports Bowl in Detroit the day after Christmas. I assume that they're all expecting Rutgers to beat Penn State. I guess that's it.
Well, right, because the alternative is they think Rutgers is going to beat Ohio State, which obviously,
obviously, there's no getting there 5-7. Is what I'm saying. There's no like GPA.
Correct. No. That's correct. That is correct. And the interesting thing is that the humans have Rutgers. They all have Rutgers in the bowl projections, which I agree with you. I was stunned at that. I thought maybe one would kind of throw it out as a rogue, darts against a board, but they all had them after months of not having them, obviously. But the computer, the FPI, has Rutgers at a 24% chance at 6 wins, right? And Rutgers needs 1 win in 2 games. It has Penn State, which needs to win all 3 games, at like 44.6%. It must be having like some preseason bias or something. Obviously, it's a computer. It doesn't have the emotional ramifications, but I was shocked that Penn State has almost twice as high odds to make a bowl game than Rutgers.
Right. Well, you know what? I mean, so what did it say? You say it was 24.6%? So they give
something like that.
FBI gives Rutgers a 22.5% chance of beating Penn State. So essentially that's what they're saying. They're saying, well, we give them a 1 in 4 chance of beating Penn State. That's good. The 1 in 4 chance of making the bowl. I mean, that makes sense. Totally. So
the interesting thing to me about the bowl projections was that 5 different places picked Rutgers to go to the same game, and all 5 of them somehow picked a different team. I'm going to read the names to you of the teams, and I want you to tell me which team you would prefer Rutgers to play.
Okay.
Ohio.
No.
Western Michigan.
Okay, next.
Miami of Ohio.
Can't rematch in this bowl game. The best we can do here. Come on, two rematches.
Toledo.
Okay.
And Buffalo.
All right. Okay. I'm going to rank them for you here. I'm going to go Western Michigan, then Toledo, then Buffalo.
Okay.
Because
so
Western Michigan, we can do the story. They nearly hired the Western Michigan coach 25 years ago. That's who they want to hire first. There you go. That's a good Gary Darnell. I think that's what his name was.
It is. Let's not give away our secrets here to the
audience here knows that.
I guess the point is it's not exactly a ticket seller as far as location, as far as date, as far as opponent. But if you're going to the Game Above Sports Bowl in Detroit the day after Christmas, it means that you beat Penn State. So whether fans travel or not, I think they would appreciate being at that game.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. For a million reasons. But I think, and this is great. And I think this is Kevin Fein made this point in the Discord. It's like, the Penn State game is the Super Bowl here. Let's be honest. This is not, the bowl bid is just what you get if you beat Penn State. Beating Penn State is what matters here. And I wrote about it after this game. We've talked about it. I can't remember, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember a situation where, the entire season comes down to a single game in a lot of ways. Like, this is how we're going to remember this season. Either it's the season that they went 5-7, struggled, a dip back, whatever, or it's the season they beat Penn State. There's no in between here. And if it's the latter, it's going to be a disappointment. But if it's, the former disappointment, if it's the season they beat Penn State, I think a lot of fans, I just talked to one on the phone. They used to host this podcast, Ryan Dunleavy. We were talking about it. I think people are going to say, all right, that's a good season. That was one of the better seasons in Rutgers history. We beat Penn State. I think people are going to remember that. And it's 6-6. You go to a bowl game. I think people have kind of gotten used to 6-6 being where, that's the baseline. That's where this program is going to be with good coaching. I think people are going to be okay with that. They're not going to love it. They're going to, they could have been better. We should have. If only we beat Minnesota, maybe we would have been a better. Stuff like that's going to happen. But beating Penn State, it's the entire thing.
The closest we've had to this was in 21. They entered the season finale against Maryland at 5-6, with a chance if they won that game, they would make it to their first bowl game in 7 years or whatever. This was Greg's second year back, and then they just got their doors completely blown off by Taulia Tagovailoa and company. So obviously this is a much bigger ramifications because, one, the bowl bid doesn't matter as much as it would have in 2021.
Right.
And two, because it's Penn freaking State. Right. So I think all of that plays into it. I think it's fun. Like, there's some buzz again about, again, it's not what it could have been. Right. It's not the season everyone wanted. And I agree that Rutgers is at a point where they have elevated beyond all right, we're not losing these games anymore. Right. That shouldn't be a reason for celebration anymore. And expectations have gone higher. But just as far as a one game thing, it's fun. This is fun. This is like, it's finally, Rutgers has not had like a fun, exciting build up to a game in a long time. So,
yes,
I can't wait. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like that day in Piscataway.
Yeah. And the fact that it's here, the fact that it's the last game of the year. And I wrote this, and I think it does matter. It does take some of the shine off it that Penn State's having this season, but I kind of liken it to the difference between winning the Mega Millions and just winning the regular lottery. Like, all right, it's still pretty good, right? I mean, if you beat them this year, it doesn't really matter. You kick them one last time, leave them without, and I hope they win the next two games. So they're here and they're playing for bowl eligibility. Like, I wonder, what's that like at Penn State? Feel like, if we just win one more, we're going to play Toledo and Detroit. Like, I don't know how that, you started the year thinking you're going to win the national championship, and then you're in Detroit on December 26th. Although I imagine the Pinstripe Bowl might say, no, we're going to take them. But yeah, I'd be very curious to see what that means for Penn State. Certainly different than what it means for Rutgers, but they don't want to lose to Rutgers. I mean, obviously they don't want to lose. That's whoever takes the field there. They're still a talented team. I mean, they took they took Indiana to the last play of the game. Essentially, took a miracle catch for a team that's going to make the playoffs to beat them. So they haven't given up on the season. I don't know. It's fascinating.
It's hard to quantify all of that. I would first push back on your idea that you'd rather Penn State be good, because if this was still the top 10 Penn State team we expected preseason, there'd be some excitement, but I think everyone would kind of have in the back of their mind, much like Ohio State, that they really would not have a shot at this game. Now, the fun in this is that there is a legit chance Rutgers wins this game. Like, it's not crazy to think that Rutgers could upset this Penn State team, which is 0-6 in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I would agree with you that you'd want them to win every game, so there's some buzz. Although, if they lose one of these next two games and they have no reason to play, that gives Rutgers, I think, even more of a opportunity to win that game, though it will take away some of the excitement. I will say at Penn State, fans are 100% focused on who's the next coach, which players are we keeping, which players are we getting, how do we fix this mess. I think that the diehard of diehards would travel to Detroit. It's not a long drive, but I don't think they particularly care. I will say I am interested to know the majority of Penn State fans. Do they care whether they lose to Rutgers or not?
Oh,
do they care?
Absolutely care. Are you kidding me?
More than like more than a Northwestern or a
Absolutely.
Michigan State or Nebraska.
Well, and put it this way, because so many of them live in this state. Keep that in mind too. That's part of it. There's a lot of Penn State fans in New Jersey, and they, I think they like looking down their noses at Rutgers, and the idea that Rutgers would beat them ever, I think, is offensive to them. Beat them even in a bad year. The fact that Rutgers fans would have bragging rights for a year. I mean, how would you feel about it? Like if you were the superior program, you've won 31 of the last 32 games, you haven't lost since 1988. It would suck to lose to this team. I mean, it reminded me of like when I was in UNC, like Clemson never won in basketball at Carolina, and it was like, you don't want those guys to win at Carolina. Come on, Clemson. Clemson. Like it's sort of like that attitude toward it. And I think that I certainly think it matters to fans, and it would be great. And that's the rare feeling, like the Penn State fans will be uptight about it, whereas the Rutgers fans will be like excited about it. It's like a different emotion. If you're going to that game as a Penn State fan, you're going with kind of it's like a sense of dread, as opposed to a Rutgers fan who's going there with like, this is it, this is our chance, which is a much different vibe, a funner vibe for Rutgers, certainly.
Much more fun, but I think you're discounting how tight those sphincters are going to be at the Rutgers sideline for that entire game. I mean, that it's going to be the tension at SHI Stadium is going to be insane. I know we saw glimpses of a little scuffle below the press box of the Maryland game, and that's not even a rivalry, apparently. Imagine what it's going to be like in a high-powered Penn State Rutgers game. It's the fourth quarter. Some wild flag gets thrown. There's going to be punches thrown all over the place. Snow, if there's snow being thrown around, it'll be.
If you've got information about that fight, please message us on the Discord. Reach out to us on any place you can, because we were obviously sitting in there. We heard like a kerfuffle, and then all of us are like pressing our faces against the glass, like, what? Just to watch it. But I think we caught the tail end. But yeah, it's going to be tight. And I go back to that. Like, it's funny, like the angriest will like rate different crowds, and there've been bigger crowds. There've been some, really into it crowds. I have never in my life covering sports seen an angrier crowd than when Penn State came in 2014. Like the fans, to a point where it was almost like a little cringy. Like there was just kind of like, it was right at the Sandusky stuff. There's some stuff that you're like, all right, just come on, guys. These are just people going to the game. Let's it got a little on that sense. But the other part of it was obviously just, the energy was just very, negative, and the fans were just really into it in that direction. A much different crowd than we've seen in a lot of the other big games where it's nighttime, like, yay, big football game. I wonder if it'll be that way against Penn State. I don't think so. I think this time it will be the same kind of feel, that vibe, that excitement. So tell us if we're wrong. I'm curious what fans think about that.
I wonder if the feeling going into this game would be different if Rutgers had won that first game. It'd be like, because this would be the first one in whatever, 30 years, 42 years, 40, 30, 36, 37 years, something like that.
37.
Since 88.
Yeah.
That's the point. That their second win over Penn State since the World War. Before it was called the World War I, it was just the World War.
I fell into sitting there before the press conference, Googling that and researching that. And that was, when we beat them in 1918, and Penn State, talk about bad excuses. They had it's like Spanish flu. Come on. No, you can't use that as an excuse. Like they had come on, you can't use that as an excuse. Can you imagine? The coach stands up there and said, why'd you lose to Rutgers? Well, we had the Spanish flu. Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yeah, Spanish flu. Wah, wah.
And that was right after the time of the great Toady. What's his name? Toady Bowley?
Yes. Toady Bracher. Toady Bracher, 1915's great running back.
Respect to our listener, Scarlet Burner, who went down a Toady rabbit hole and taught me things about Toady. He was a 5'5", 140 pounder, described as fast as a bullet. Right. He had 0 career fumbles. Shout out Kyle Monungai. He was the original. And this kind of gets sad. Tragically, he passed away at 29 when his car crashed into a parked Mack truck on the side of the highway. Did cars go that fast? I mean, not to make light of a man's death, but he must have died in like the 30s or 40s. Did cars even go that fast enough to?
Yeah, they didn't have airbags, or seatbelts, or
right.
They go fast enough. That's sad. I didn't know the Toady Bracher story it was a tragedy. Man,
I did not know either. But he's the OG 1,000-yard runner, and now Rutgers has 9 of them after Antoine Raymond joined the club, assuming that somehow he doesn't lose a yard and then lose the rest of the season, right? It's just weird. He's stuck on exactly 1,000 yards. And that'll transition to a question we had. I don't think we're going to do a question section. I think we're just going to do.
we answered most of the questions already. You don't want to know more about the. You don't want to know about more about the 1918 Penn State canceling games for the Spanish flu in World War II. I'm kidding. World War One. I'm looking at
how many did they cancel?
They canceled 5 games that year. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I've got a photo of them. The Penn State team from 1918. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Where you going? I won't go down this rabbit hole again.
Does the frequent running back success? This is from Joel R on our Discord. If you're not on our Discord, join our Discord. The link is on our Twitter page in the bio. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe, please. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, please follow the show. We appreciate every and all signs of support. Anyway, Joel R on the Discord says, does the frequent RB success at Rutgers under Schiano and the NFL success seen from it give any recruiting advantage as running back you to get more stud runners at any discounts over them everywhere else?
I don't know. It's a good question. You would think, I think if you're a running back, you have to love what you saw. 41 carries. You've got to love that. You've got to love Kyle Monungai, Pacheco in Kansas City. Isaiah out there. I mean, you've got to love that part of it, but I also wonder, does it matter are you thinking that? Or are you thinking like, I want to go to the best program possible? It's a good question. What do you think?
Or the program that pays me the most money.
Yeah,
I don't think kids taking discounts this year or this era. I guess just we should pump the brakes on the RBU thing. Like Pacheco won a couple Super Bowls. He happened to play on one of the greatest offenses of all time with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. It's not exactly like Isaiah Pacheco was carrying the Chiefs to Super Bowls. And Kyle Monungai, yes, has played a decent amount as a 7th rounder for the Bears. He had a touchdown yesterday against the Giants, which is super exciting. Second straight week with a touchdown. When I checked the stats in the third quarter, he had 19 yards for 6 carries. Right. So let's not start labeling Rutgers RBU yet. They have a great tradition. I think it's very encouraging. They were able to go from Kyle Monungai to Antoine Raymond.
Yes.
So that tells me that they find these guys. They know what a good running back looks like in the Rutgers system, which is more important than getting these stud running backs, right? They find guys that fit the system and that can overachieve. So that to me would be more encouraging than thinking that suddenly the Derrick Henry of 2027 is going to come to Rutgers.
Right. Yeah, I think the question that followed that one up from Anthony Wiegland on X was, is there a less than 10% chance or less than 1% chance that Raymond is playing in Piscataway next season? I think Anthony is feeling negative about the possibility of Rutgers keeping their star running back. I don't know. Like I'm sure 2 things are at work here. Obviously, he's going to be in demand, but what do other programs pay for running backs? I mean, that's a big question. Like, I think there's whatever analytics there are at the top of the sport, I think also trickle down to college football. And I don't think that running backs are a premier position where you're going to spend a lot of money like you will for a quarterback or a defensive end or a left tackle in the same way that it's in the NFL. So I think he's happy here. I see no indication that he's not. He likes it around this team. I think it'll take a lot of money to pry him away. And I think Rutgers has money. Like they're going to want to retain this. Like this is the first goal of raising the NIL and of using the money you have, your resources from the rev share, is keeping the team together. It's not going out and getting another running back. And while I do think that that's one position of depth compared to some of others on the team, clearly what we saw against Maryland, there is a hierarchy. It is him and everybody else. Like it's not him and then Jayshon Benjamin's right there and they got a couple guys on the bench who it's him. So I clearly think that they'll pay him.
They've shown that throughout the season that he's the guy. Yeah. I think maybe CJ Campbell was healthy and he would probably take a little bit more of the carries, but he's the guy. And I think that plays into a decision like this, where you're at a program where you're going to get the rock, where in theory you have a quarterback coming up who's going to become a first-year starter, who is going to pick up the mantle from Anthony Kaliakmanis and play at a similar level. You have your running backs coach who you trust and have a good relationship with. So yeah, I think there is a good chance, and I think Rutgers will focus on him among many other players. I think we can do a segment on this in another episode we do later this week on the bye week. Just have stuff to talk about, where Rutgers entering the last 2 weeks, because we're Rick Schiano talked about the program going out and recruiting in high school and all that stuff, which they are. I think this is a big week also for talking about where do things stand with our key players, right? Like, I don't know if negotiations are quote unquote happening this week, but I think this is a big week to, sit down and evaluate.
Absolutely.
Because you only have a month after the season till the portal opens, right?
So we can do for that right now. No question.
Yes. They've been preparing for weeks probably, but this is probably a big week in that process. So we can do the same thing on our next episode and kind of go one by one on the big decisions, the big guys Rutgers needs to get, and have a little fun segment on that. But because someone asked about Raymond, I think that he's one of those guys that however much money you raise, you're going to have to put it in and put it on him, because you showed in 24 what it means to have a returning running back who can impact the game when you had Kyle Monangai. And we keep praising Raymond as Monangai-esque. So I think that in the same way you worked hard to keep Monangai, you'll want to keep Raymond.
Let me ask you one question on this, because it just popped in my head, and I think it's fascinating. It could frame the discussion that we have about this team. Ian Strong goes pro. He announces he's going to the NFL. Pretend that Rutgers had a franchise tag. What's the one player they're tagging?
Excellent question. Let me ask you this. If a guy runs out of eligibility after the season, I can't franchise tag him to get an extra year of eligibility.
No,
it has to be a guy.
You can't say Ethan. Is that what you're thinking? No.
That was what I was thinking, yes.
Yeah, you can't do that. No, it's someone who can actually be playing the team next year.
Right. Okay.
That's why I said Ian Strong's going pro, because he would be the answer. I think obvious answers. Who would you franchise?
I would agree. I think Ian Strong is the best, most impactful player on this team. I mean, he was running at half speed, destroying Maryland DBs, right? And I think if you give him another year and you get him back to full health, and I mean, I think he can do some real damage. And I think there will be a lot of interest both from the NFL and from other schools for wanting to get him. So I think I think that's the obvious answer. I think the interesting question is who's number two. If you ask me, I guess you go KJ Duff, right?
Probably.
You could probably find a comparable running back. Running back is a replaceable position, right? You can't find that many 6'6" wide receivers who go up and get passes the way that KJ Duff does.
Yeah, and they don't have a defensive player who would put in that category as talented as KJ Duff, and they don't have an offensive lineman who I would say, God, they can't lose blank on the line or they're screwed. So yeah, I think I agree with you on that. And just for the same reason that Duff is he's just more of a unicorn than Raymond is, as good as Raymond's been this season. That it'd be harder to replace Duff than Raymond.
I agree. I don't want to drag this on too long. I have one more question that was submitted to us that I want to ask. And then whatever we don't answer for this one, we could always do sort of a mailbag thing in our next. We'll record some other time this week during the bye week is my point. We'll recap the Monday basketball game, whatever. We didn't even talk about basketball today. This is to be our most off the rails podcast since I've been doing this. I got to be honest.
I love it. I'm having a great time. I don't know if anyone's going to listen. I'm having a great time. It's good.
So this is a non-football, non-sports question. This is about the two main head coaches at Rutgers. Who do you think is more fun at parties? Greg Schiano or Steve Pikiell, and why?
Wow. At parties. So that's like different to me than like, who do you want to have a beer with? It's just interesting, right? Because you're having a beer, you're suggesting there's like four of you at a table and someone's telling stories. In that situation, the answer for me is Greg Schiano. He's a great storyteller. You get him going. Like if he trusts you, that to me, he can make you laugh, and the hell out of it. Absolutely. At a party, it suggests that someone who's going to be kind of a little bit looser, a little bit more social. I might go Pikiell in that situation, right? Because he's kind of like a funny, he's kind of got a different personality to him. He's got I can like when you're around him and you're in a conversation with him. What's interesting about Steve Pikiell is the way that he involves other people. Like you'd be talking to him, and then one of his players will walk over, and now you're having a conversation with the three of you, and like, oh yeah, you gotta meet Caden Powers. He brings him up. This is the second best player in Washington. Like just stuff like you're like, oh okay, he's just like he's got that natural ability to kind of like work a room. So I think I might go in that direction. You agree?
I think you're 100%. I couldn't have nailed that answer any better, because at a party, it's like a transient thing. People are walking in and out, conversations are happening, and it's kind of like a blur. I think Steve is really good at rolling with the punches in that way, good one-liners. And I definitely think Greg is more of a excellent storyteller. Like I could not have put it better. Put it better than you. Though I think they would both be interesting. I bet they both have mountains of stories to tell that would that people would pay a lot of money to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who would you rather have as podcast guest?
Both. Both are welcome on the Rutgers Rant. Believe that. We will not exclude any guests, considering how hard it is to get anyone on this podcast.
Who wants to come on the podcast is invited. All right. I think you're right, though. Want to end there? Let's do it. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. If you guys want to submit more questions for like a mailbag, if you thought this one was off the rails, think about later in the week. We're kind of just going to be throwing stuff against the wall. Submit questions. Again, I'm sorry to keep hammering on this. I'm putting it on a little thick these last couple weeks, but like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social media. Sorry, I almost forgot to do this. So I throw this out on Twitter, and I will throw it out to our podcast audience. Comment what you think the Penn State Rutgers line will be. Whoever is closest, if you are at the game, I have our NIL magnets in my car.
Ooh.
I will hand deliver one to you at your tailgate if you are the closest to the line without going over it. We'll do
That's good.
that way. So
yes. Yeah, and we're asking for the likes because the Devils YouTube page, in 2 months, got more likes than us, and we've been doing it for a long time. It's kind of embarrassing. So if you're on YouTube, go hit the subscribe button so we don't look as bad as we do.
I know there's some crossover between the Devils and Rutgers fan bases, but I think the Rutgers fan base will want to show that they're as big of a program as the Devils are in New Jersey. So hit the subscribe button and make our bosses happy. That will make us happy. Unless you don't want us to make us happy, which I understand as well.
All right. Everyone, thanks for putting up with us today and following along here in a bit of an off the rails pod. We'll be back eventually to talk about something. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant, sponsored by the Heldridge Hotel. Head to NJ.com/Rutgers for more Scarlet Knight content.